Wolf. My name is Matthew Kroll.
And you fight with rage. My name is Shahir Dowd.
And this is the only podcast about movies, specifically the film Predator Badlands.
Woo, how many Predator movies are we doing this year?
Bad. 5. We're doing 5.
5 Predator movies.
Because there's bad. Yeah, 5.
Oh, well, I was going to say, well, the Killer of Killers is 3.
Yep.
So this is 4. We could get to 5.
We'd have to talk about all. Actually, we could technically talk about 5 Predator movies this year. I don't think we should.
Well, no, isn't there like the Neighbor is your Neighbor is a Predator movie that's coming out? There's also like, other movies.
Oh,
that
just
deal
with the name Predator?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we could also do a real good retrospective on the Alien versus Predator films.
I still to this day, and I make such a point of like watching movies in context. I'm like prepping for Sentimental Value, which we're doing next week.
Sure.
By watching other movies. I have not watched Alien versus Predator.
Well, I don't think there's anything really in the continuity verse for Sentimental Value.
No. But I'm prepping myself on Joaquin Trier as a filmmaker.
As a filmography sort of thing. I mean, see, here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think these are 2 different exercises.
Yeah.
I mean, one is studying up on how a filmmaker makes films and tells stories, etc. And the other one is following the franchise. Because the way that, honestly, the Alien versus Predator, even to Shane Black's The Predator, to this film, like, other than Prey, Killer of Killers, and Badlands, that's been like the first run of a director continuing on with this IP.
Yeah, but you could watch other Predator movies to kind of understand how the character has been used.
You can understand the lore of it. I'm saying there's a difference between, and then not that one is better or worse. I'm saying the exercise is different. Following a director's various films across different stories that have no interconnectivity, or following a franchise across multiple directors that are trying to have a loose continuity. They're both interesting. They're just different exercises.
Yeah, entirely different. And what I'm saying is, why have I not devoted this time to watching Alien vs.
It's because they're bad.
I've heard Alien vs. Predator Part 2 is like amongst the worst movies.
It's really terrible. 1 is fine, but like I only remember it being fine, and I couldn't tell you what happened in it, other than the human lady ends up wearing. I want to say xenomorph exoskeletons as like body armor and shields when she fights alongside the Predator.
Okay.
Sorry, spoiler alert for Predator, Alien versus Predator.
Yeah, Predator.
Predator.
Yeah. Well, there to date are 7 Predator movies and then 2 Alien versus Predator movies. Have we seen the Predator in any other franchise? As we speak,
comic books, yes, but other than that,
plenty
no.
and an amazing side scroller video game, right?
Yeah.
I love that side scroller video game, and it is universally accepted truth that Predator was the best character in that game.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
Alien was cool, but like Alien was kind of hard to play.
In most things that the Predator is in, the Predator is the coolest thing in it.
Yeah.
That's just kind of an unspoken truth, a universal known.
Yeah.
Which I can never remember. I always want to say it's not Yogwai. What is the
Yocha? They say that in this movie.
They say it all a bunch. They speak it.
Yeah.
They wrote a whole language for it. The same guy who was brought in for Avatar to write the Na'vi language and the writing and the verbal of it wrote this stuff.
Well, famously, this is all filmed in New Zealand, produced in New Zealand. When I was actually in New Zealand this year, I didn't see Predator costumes, but I went to Weta Workshop this time for the first time. And I've been to Weta Workshop before as like a friend of people who work there. And so I've kind of seen things that they've been working on, but this is the first time, I had my kid with me. So we went to actually on the tour. And so you got to see like really cool stuff. I don't know if I told you about this on the I
don't know
if we talked about it on the podcast, but what was really cool is we did that movie I Am Mother many years ago.
Yes. I love that movie.
Yeah, which was produced by Weta Digital. They created the entire mother creature, mother robot and prosthetic. And they at the Weta Workshop tour, you go into this room where they have all the characters that they built, including like the Nazgul from Lord of the Rings.
Nice.
There's a really interesting thing where they're like, you cannot take photos of these because technically Weta Workshop doesn't own them, and so you can't take photos of any of this stuff.
They stole them.
Yeah. Well, they produced them. They produced them on behalf of like New Line Cinema, who actually owns them.
I hope New Line Cinema is not listening to this.
I know.
They don't know where to go to get their Nazgul back.
It was like, what? Why can't you take photos? Surely they know that you're there. But they had the mother robot there as well, and I was like, I was excited, and I was like talking to the tour guide. And I was like, I love this movie, and the tour guide was like, you are probably one of the few, like one of 3 people who have come here in the last 2 years that knows who that character is.
Oh man!
And then he gave me like a mother sticker.
Oh, you did tell me that. I don't think you mentioned it on the podcast, but you can email us in at onlymoviepodcast@gmail.com if you've heard this story already.
But also when I was talking to a couple of the modelers that work at the workshop tour, they had just worked on Predator Badlands, and they had some interesting things to talk about. We actually, from memory, we talked about the fact that the Predator character in Badlands, they had done a lot of work to make it more appealing. Like, because in other films, it is the creature. In this film, it is the protagonist.
Sure, Deck.
And you can kind of see in terms of the actual overall design of how that character has been put together, like how different it looks from the original Stan Winston kind of creation, which famously, we've talked about, James Cameron was on a plane next to Stan Winston while Stan Winston was trying to come up with the creature designs for Predator. And it was James Cameron who said, you should give it mandibles. Yeah, which is kind of like famous. Yeah.
Well, so Na'vi versus Predator is what I'm waiting for. I think that'd be...
The Na'vi's going to win.
I do not think so.
You really don't think so?
The Predator are essentially, what if the Na'vi went bad and had all of the humans' technology, but like then 10,000 years? Like, it's not doing great.
I think the Na'vi would outsmart a Predator pretty effectively.
I don't know.
I think, what's the Na'vi mom? Man, my avatar.
Maybe if they had the whale friend with them.
Yeah. The whale's going to destroy the Predator.
I mean, we've never seen a Predator. I don't think we've seen a Predator in water.
We've definitely seen aliens in water.
Yeah.
But not Predator. Anyway, real briefly then, do you want to just quickly, if we can, before we start the episode, we have got the 7 Predator movies here. I'm going to discard the Alien versus Predator movies. One of these I have not seen.
How dare you discard those
I'm
films?
going to the Paul W. Anderson movies.
Yeah.
Yep, they're out. How would you rank these movies now that you've seen them all? Where would you place these movies?
All right.
And this will be very rough. You're seeing this for the first time.
Can I go in reverse order? Like, I'll tell you my least favorite.
Your least favorite. Yeah, sure.
So my least favorite is, sadly, my boy Shane Black's The Predator.
Absolutely.
Probably followed by Predators, which I don't dislike. I think it was an interesting take with a fun twist.
Yeah.
Then I would probably go Predator 2.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would go Killer of Killers, Prey, Badlands, Predator.
Wow.
If that sort of spoils I'm thinking about this movie, I'm really liking the direction that this movie is going. And I want to also say, and I'll go through it as we go through more spoilers and things. Mm-hmm. My first reaction during the first third of this movie was not that.
Oh, okay.
And this movie, it did a lot of things, and we'll sort of call them out as we go, that I rolled my eyes pretty hard at. Mm-hmm. And then by the end, I felt like almost everything I rolled my eye at got paid off in either a narrative or emotional beat. And I was like, and so I Prey and this one, Predator Badlands, are sort of neck and neck for me. This one is the one I'm more excited now, because Prey is a great standalone Predator story. Mm-hmm. This is not a standalone Predator story. This is the story of a runt of a clan, basically. Not just going out to, as the trailer did, although I know you didn't see it, Sheer, like it sort of made it seem like, he has to go out to prove to his clan he is worthy. Mm-hmm. It's a little more than that.
Yeah.
It's actually a lot more and brutal and weird, and I liked that it wasn't just like, this is what you must do, my son. It was like, essentially, his older brother went against the Predator code, spoiler alerts for like the first 5 minutes of this movie, and sacrificed himself to get his brother to escape to go prove himself for his clan. Mm-hmm. And I really, really liked that. Anyway, that's my ranking. Do you have a different one? Have you seen, which one haven't you seen?
So I haven't seen the Nimrod Antal film, which I've always wanted to see, because I like Nimrod Antal. He did a film about a motel that I actually quite liked. And I know this movie was
Motel Predator.
Motel Predator. Ooh, that sounds creepy. He did a film called Vacancy, which I kind of like.
I have this on Blu-ray if you'd like to buy it.
I think I do want to see this.
it's quite good. I don't want to talk about it too much because I like what it does.
I've always wanted to see it because also I've been interested in this director, even though I don't think he actually turned out that to do much beyond Predators might be the biggest thing he did, and I know Predators was produced by Robert Rodriguez as well. So if I was to rank these movies, I would go. This is going to be hard. So definitely The Predator. Shane Black is without a doubt the worst.
I wish it wasn't, but it really is.
It really is. And I think I said that on that podcast, was like when we did that episode, I was like, this is a bad movie. This is like quite a egregiously bad movie.
I think at the time I kind of had a little bit of rosy glass. I didn't think it was good, but I was like, it's fun, it's stupid.
Yeah.
But like now,
it's like stupid.
But now when I think about it, I get mad.
Yeah.
Especially after what Dan Trachtenberg has been able to do with The Predator in the last three films.
Also, I mean, in defense of the movie, it does feel like a movie that has been abridged, recut.
Yes.
You know, like it kind of feels like Frankenstein put together.
It got dragged across the finish line.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a movie that just kind of barely, I would say, doesn't quite hang together.
Yep.
I think this is going to be interesting.
Sure.
Because, so I haven't seen Predators, so we'll put that to one side for me. I have a real soft spot for Predator Part 2.
It's a good film.
It took the lore in an interesting way for me, and as a fan of those first two movies, which I'll put next to each other, I actually quite like it. However, I think realistically, if we were to look at this from the outside in, Predator 2 would be the next film after Shane Black's movie. Even though I actually really, really like Predator 2, and I think it's got some interesting stuff to say, as I'll talk about it in a little bit.
He's in town with a few days to kill.
He does have a few days to kill, and there's no stopping what can't be killed. But I would rank him this way. I would go. Ooh, this is actually going to reveal our hands right away. After Predator 2, I would put Predator Badlands.
Cool.
Then
this will be a great conversation.
Yeah, then I would put Predator Killer of Killers.
Yeah.
Then I would put Prey.
Yeah.
Then I would put Predator, the John McTiernan film, above that. Above Prey. So I'm going in reverse order.
Yeah. But we got to the same number one.
Yeah, Predator is still both on number one.
Yeah, because it's just that movie is so unexpected and way deeper, and it's amazing what they pulled off with their limited what resources they had in 1987.
Yeah,
it's so impressive.
I will also grant this. I feel like you and I are of the age where Predator makes a lot of sense for us at our age. If someone comes into this entire franchise at Prey, in 2022, I can 100% see Prey being the number one film of this franchise.
Well, so it's funny. So yes.
Yeah.
I would say though, out of all of the action IP that has been dragged out of its casket 9 times to be reinvented from the 80s.
Yeah.
Predator as a film, like, I think Predator is a better movie than Terminator.
Than Terminator 1?
Than Terminator 1.
Sure.
2 is obviously, we're not, that's beyond the pale.
Yeah. No, but, I would.
But Predator is a movie that, and I would love to hear if anyone has shown this to anyone of the either younger millennial
or just someone who hasn't watched this franchise.
Gen Z, right? Like, I still think that Predator as a film really, really works outside of you were telling me like your son thought the original Star Wars were kind of boring. Was that you?
Yeah.
So it's a pacing thing. It's something. There's something about Predator because at its heart, it is a horror film that it's instead of teenagers in a house, it flips the script and it is the most masculine macho army men possible, but it's still the same premise. Something is killing them off one by one. And so there's something about the horror element of it that and the pacing of it. A fourth of that movie is just panning shots of the jungle. Yeah. And you're just waiting and it feels so good. So I feel like out of all of these 80s things, the original films that started off all these IPs, I feel like Predator is probably the one that would be most welcomed in a 2025 brand new filmmaker environment.
Sure. I think I am in complete agreement with your point that Predator is a better movie than Terminator in terms of this is the film that started the franchise, and it's okay. You like Terminator, you'd be like, oh, that's okay.
I
that's
like Terminator.
Yeah. But Predator is an extraordinary movie. I think have we talked about John McTiernan on this podcast?
I mean, outside of Predator?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I mean, yeah, we've done Die Hard.
Yeah, we've done Die Hard. And he, I think the Thomas Crown Affair, for example, Die Hard with a Vengeance. John McTiernan is one of the underrated greats of American cinema. He has had a unfortunate tail into his career. I don't know if you know what happened to him, which is that, well, not what happened to him, what he did. He was convicted of spying on his ex-wife using a private detective to record conversations or something like that, and sent to prison for it.
Wow.
I think he's been released since, and he's been trying to get some stuff off the ground, but like his career kind of like entirely got derailed. But in that early period, you've got Predator, Hunt for the Red October, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He didn't do the second one. Things like the Thomas Crown Affair as well. Extraordinary filmmaker with incredible, as far as action filmmakers go, one of the very few philosophically minded, intelligent action filmmakers where the action is extraordinary, of course, like James Cameron, but his character, his actual character work is amazing. I rewatched Hunt for the Red October recently, and it was like, wow, I think had his career gone a different way. I know he had a flop in the early 2000s with the movie Rollerball.
Oh God!
Yeah, but
that movie's awful.
Yeah, so I think that's kind of where the career kind of derails around that point. But things like Thomas Crown Affair is extraordinary. 13th Warrior, I have not seen, and I know Basic was the last one. Oh, and Last Action Hero. We haven't talked about Last Action Hero. One of the most amazingly modern action movies. Way ahead of its time. So, that's one thing about that Predator franchise, which is, yes, it's made by one of the great underrated American filmmakers of all time, who has had an extraordinary career that, has gone a certain way. But yes, we are in the period of Dan Trachtenberg, and we talked about Dan Trachtenberg obviously this year and in 2022 with Prey. He was formerly a podcast host, so there is hope for us after all. Famously, he made a short film based on the Portal video game, which is excellent. I remember seeing it like when he launched it on YouTube.
2011.
I remember watching it as it came out, and I was like, wow, this is actually really, really good. Then he was picked up by Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams' company, and kind of floated around there, developing a few projects. The one that actually came to fruition that we actually reviewed on this podcast was 10 Cloverfield Lane, which is excellent as well.
Also excellent.
Yeah, he's done a really, there's a thing about him, which is a quality that I really, really like about his filmmaking. On the one hand, it's a weird way to characterize it, I guess. It's extraordinarily unfussy. Like his filmmaking is extraordinarily unfussy, but that is not to say it's not ambitious. Like, 10 Cloverfield Lane has some big ideas in it and some big swings in that movie. And Prey, for all that it's sort of reinvention of the Predator mythology, is very unfussy in terms of like figuring out what is actually at stake in the Predator movies and how do we make that work. But then it does things like, it has the entire Comanche cut, and really pays on respect to the Native American stories, and makes that really, really work. So. And then we see with Killer of Killers and Badlands that he is actually quite an ambitious filmmaker. But there's just something about it where it's like, doesn't feel like he's trying too hard.
No,
which is what I like about him.
He actually directed the pilot of The Boys in 2019.
Yeah, was it the pilot? I know he directed episodes.
Yep, and it's one episode, and it was the first one. It's I don't want to spoil anything, but
I think I've watched that.
I was watching I forget which web series does it, but it was like picking one's favorite scene of everything he's done.
Yeah,
and the one he picked was from The Boys. It was a very it's an intensely graphic scene and a large spoiler for that series, which I won't sort of say. Yeah. But the way they approached it was the way he talked about it was so interesting, because he's like, sequences like this are always like this. Yeah. It runs like this. There's a shock, and then this happens, right? Yeah. He's like, I didn't want to do that, and the studio was pushing back. That's how we should do it. And he did a completely different style and pacing and vibe of visual effect for this thing. Yeah. And it's one of the most, it's the moment in The Boys where I was like, oh, this is going to go hard and be something special. Mm-hmm. I don't know. So as he was breaking down his shots, his favorite one from 10 Cloverfield Lane was his first shot he did on that movie, which was on Mary Elizabeth Winstead asleep in the bunker, and they do that really slow pull out in the oneer that goes through. And he was talking about it's always fun to hear this stuff because he's also a visual effects. He works a lot of visual effects. He knows his shit. They did it, I think, 6 times. No take was perfect. They had to keep like moving walls to get the cameras and everything. And there was a part when her legs chained up and they needed to see the leg, and the leg was always sort of glitching out of focus. And so they actively somehow comped a good take of the leg into the bad take. And this wasn't on like a robot arm. They just like did it by hand.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really enjoy. And then like his favorite one in Badlands was literally the one where he's the Predator is standing in the cave and he lights up the sword and it's the wide in the sort of like framing. And he goes, because that is a actual place. They added obviously background stuff, but he's like, when do you get to just like shoot this shot?
And this is in New Zealand, right? Yeah, there was a funny thing where there's a sequence, there's a bunch of like landscape shots, and there was one I immediately recognized, which is the Orongorongo River, or the Orongorongas. And that's an area that we went hiking on as a school trip when we were younger. We did a trip to the Mount Tongariro, which has the Orongorongo River at the base of it. I hope I'm getting my geography right.
There'll be a quiz at the end.
There'll be a quiz at the end. And my big memory is I fell while I was crossing that river and got swept downstream.
Oh no!
And actually, sorry. This is why I'm. So in New Zealand,
wait, what happened to you?
In New Zealand, you do a lot of hiking.
Sure.
So and you do a lot of trips to places like this as a school trip. You go for a week and do this. And I'm mistaking the Orongorongas, which we did in when I was in 6th or 7th form, with another trip that we did to Abel Tasman National Park, which is where I believe it was an Abel Tasman National Park. I don't know why I'm saying this like it's going to be fact checked. The only people that would know this would be in my high school.
Fact check this entirely. Email us in. All the things Sheer is wrong.
But I like to try to be honest about like everything I'm saying here. But I did fall down as we crossed the river and got swept downstream. And then I had like soaked bags and all my gear was soaked for the rest of the trip, which was like another 3 or 4 days.
Did you get cut up by razor grass?
I did not. We did not come across the razor grass. But if I did, I really think there was a missed opportunity to use the bareback monkey, the bareback stone monkey,
sure,
to use that as a way to navigate the razor glass.
They kind of did that though.
Sort of.
And then they moved in it.
Anyway, tell us what Predator Badlands is about. We've talked a lot about around it. We've even talked about our opinions of the movie. We haven't even talked about what the movie is.
Well, Predator Badlands, as based on what the Internet Movie Database is, quote, a young predator outcast from his clan finds an unlikely ally on his journey in search of the ultimate adversary.
The ultimate adversary. And is it human? Is it human? It's not human.
I'm trying to figure out what the name of the beast was because I can't remember.
Kalisk? Was it the Kalisk?
The Kalisk.
Kalisk, yeah. The Kalisk is really, really wonderful. And the predator is played by Demetrius Schuster Kolomatan. Oh my God. Let me do this one more time.
Montana. Nope, I want to try it. Amatangi.
Yeah,
Amatangi.
Okay, we did it together
as a family.
Yeah.
I've seen a bunch of interviews with Demetrius at this point, and I love that he loves this so much.
Yeah, and he does. He can do the actual language, right?
He speaks it.
Yeah. He's great. He's a New Zealander. He was in another New Zealand film about a brass marching band earlier a couple of years ago that did really, really well in New Zealand as well. He was in Yap Trap as well, which is a show that a friend of mine made.
Well, there you go.
Yap Trap.
Why isn't he on the podcast?
That is true. I'm not that cool.
Demetrius, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Shahir really dropped the ball on your invite.
Yeah. Actually, did I work on Yap Trap? I didn't think I
Which river did you float
it's
down?
A friend of mine, Wade Cohen. It was the director of Yap Trap.
Wade Cohen down the river.
Yeah. Anyway.
Is there an email? You said there was an email about this.
There is an email about this that we can read here from Kellen, who writes, "Hey, Matt and Shahir and the Topan fam. Happy winter break from upstate New York. Not sure if you guys are going to do Predator Badlands episode or not, but if you do, and we did, I think we have to acknowledge something Dan Trachtenberg has accomplished with his new entry. He is the first guy in the Predator, Alien, or Terminator franchises to co-write and direct 3 entries in a row. It's also the first time 3 entries in a row from any of these franchises were really well liked by both critics and audiences. And Trachtenberg is the first guy to write, direct, produce 3 entries that are well received by both critics and audiences, something not even Ridley Scott and James Cameron could do. I don't know what that means going forward, especially if Badlands isn't a big commercial success, but Trachtenberg might be doing something right. Also, I love, and this is kind of a spoiler, but one that you would get right at the beginning of the film, I love that Weyland Yutani keeps popping up as the evil mega corporation in these recent Alien and Predator projects. Franchise is produced by 20th Century Fox, now owned by evil mega corporation Disney. Anyway, hope you're both doing well. Thanks, Kellen.
Thanks, Kellen. It's not, I wouldn't call that a spoiler only because the trailer does spoil that too.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine. Although it does it in an interesting way because you just see the logo in her eyes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's a very minimal thing when she reboots. They say it in the movie, they say it. I'm saying in the trailer, they at least the first trailer, they don't.
And that does leave the door wide open for a Prometheus, Alien, Predator crossover, right?
It's funny. I actually don't want Alien versus Predator 3. Right. I don't care.
What if Dan Trachtenberg was doing it?
I watch it. I just think I think the reason why I like Badlands, because remember how we were talking about after Prey, after Prey and before Killer of Killers.
Yeah.
We were talking about, this is a perfect formula. Just make it in all these different time periods.
Yeah.
And look, that could be cool. But then when he did Killer of Killers, I was like, wow, there's 3 of these in a row, all of which, if done correctly, could have been their own films.
Yeah.
And there's still some untapped things I saw in an interview. I'm trying to remember, maybe it was Red Letter Media, that guy. He asked if there was any canonical fact in the IP that the Predator, that ancient Roman culture was influenced by predators, because a lot of it is sort of like a warrior culture, which is true and not true, independent if you want to go deep into the history background of it. But I was like, that would be an interesting one.
Sure.
But after seeing Killer of Killers, I was like, yeah, it's neat. But I don't know, I'd want something different.
Yeah. And this was
different. Now, this is the other thing. Do I want this every time? Do I want a continuation? Do I want, and the answer to that is also no. I like that this movie feels like it is taking place in this universe, but I don't ever need Deck to meet Michael Fassbender's fucking David or fight a queen alien. I don't need that, because that's not, I think, what is actually cool or special about this movie.
Yeah. I think what struck us about Prey, and we live in a world where continuity seemed to, override actual good filmmaking in many cases. What struck us about Prey is that was the reverse of that, where continuity didn't matter, even though argumentatively it could be within a single universe.
Yeah.
But what I really liked about Prey is that it felt like a standalone story.
Yeah.
So I really, really enjoyed that. I want to bring up 2 things here. One, first off, just so we correct the record here and make sure we get this right, is that Joshua Wasang, along with Dan Trachtenberg, directed Killer of Killers. So it wasn't just Dan Trachtenberg.
Touche.
Yeah. That my mistake as well. The second thing is, in the lore of movie monsters, this seems like a familiar thing, and the only one that I think kind of slightly alters this trend is Mike Myers, but the inevitable idea here is that in the first iterations of the monster, we kind of don't know a lot about them, and that's actually what makes them quite compelling and interesting. In so much as the Terminator is what is this thing, and Freddy Krueger is what is this thing, and the Predator, what is this thing, and then obviously as these movies progress further and further, what they need to do is kind of reverse engineer what was great about that first movie and kind of reveal the actual lore and mythology of that. And that's clearly what we're getting in the Predator franchise right now as well. Except this is quite compelling, because I think one of the things about the Predator is that the Predator, as we acknowledged in Killer of Killers, it's kind of a silly idea. It's this is such an advanced technological creature and they only want to hunt. There was some sort of fun ideas that we talked about in terms of how does their actual society operate.
Yeah, go back and listen to that episode. It was a fun one.
Yeah, it's fun. But the danger here is that the more you actually invest in that lore, the less interesting these characters become and the less scary they become. And that is simultaneously true in Predator Badlands, as well as being quite good.
Yeah. Here's the thing. What I really liked about the structure of this movie was kind of what did you say Dan Trachtenberg's style was? Was it not effortless? What was the word?
Ambitious, but he doesn't seem like he's unfussy.
Unfussy. Thank you. I think that speaks volumes to how we are shown the Predator culture in this movie.
Yeah.
We get the same amount of Predator culture, probably a little bit less than that we do in the Fury Road like formula of like bad guy societies. Like we know a little more in Fury Road because you like run upstairs and see the wives have been taken and all this other stuff in the water. But like I think this movie does a really good unfussy thing where it's not the Predator society is not precious. They use it just enough to make the society feel like it could be real in this world.
Yeah.
And then they don't bother with everything else.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I think what really lands there is that you're right, which is that there's a kind of, well, what Trachtenberg and his writers do really well here is that we are revealing this information through action. So we are in the midst of a hunt as this film begins, and we are in the midst of a major plot turn as the movie begins, and that reveals to us kind of how the structure of the society works, which is that there is an alpha to the sort of clan of predators, and that alpha despises and wants to eradicate entirely weakness within the clan. Mm-hmm. And Dick, who is the smallest predator, the runt of the litter, is the weakest and therefore should be destroyed. However, Dick has an older brother who is willing to protect, who doesn't believe in that ideal and leads the way for something new. By the way, when I say Dick, it's going to sound a lot like...
No, Dick, D-E-K.
Yeah. There is, however, so...
Quay, I believe, was the brother's name.
Yeah. The if you noted from the earlier part of this conversation, I did rank it kind of the third of the Trachtenbergs. Because of one detail that kind of popped up in Killer of Killers that I felt got extrapolated on here, and it was kind of my least favorite thing about this. Yeah. However, that is not to say this is very nitpicky. And it is not to say that this is not a great time in the movie. It really works. I really enjoyed, sitting in the movie theater watching this. I thought the movie just,
Did you see it in IMAX?
I didn't see it in IMAX. I just saw it in regular theater.
I had a really good seat too. Yeah. So like my periphery was perfect. I didn't have to like turn my head. And I don't know how much of this was shot or like made for IMAX, but it was a really good experience. The visual quality of this movie, especially for $100 million, looks like pristine.
So, and this is sort of coming into the fact that the movie is kind of wholesale produced in New Zealand. Like, so Trachtenberg came to New Zealand, shot the film in New Zealand. You've got a New Zealand lead actor, and then they have a lot of the visual effects being done by Weta Digital and Weta Effects, Weta Workshop, producing all this, and that kind of like. So Weta, just so you understand, Weta is an outside vendor for a lot of these projects. But if you come to New Zealand to actually make a project as well, there are incentives for you to kind of like do the
work with Weta,
and do the whole project there. And if you've ever been to Weta Workshop,
don't compliment their mother robot.
Yeah, well, no, do compliment.
Shame you.
Yeah, do compliment the mother robot. What will happen is that the project becomes internalized by Weta, and that is the best situation for any film. And that's the Lord of the Rings situation.
The dream.
That is the Avatar situation. And that is this situation here. So it kind of has that sort of like, we'll do everything top to bottom to make the movie work, as opposed to just being like an outside vendor that does one part of the film. Obviously, there are other companies that work on this at that scale as well, but that Weta being point has kind of always kind of been a great thing. Maybe I'm biased on that. But coming back to
their track record is near impeccable.
Yeah, coming back to the thing that I kind of clocked as like one of the weaker parts of Killer of Killers was the third story in Killer of Killers. And the third story involves a World War II fighter pilot who goes, who ends up in the war and has to sort of fly a plane. Everyone else has like a specialized sort of fighting style and fighting philosophy. The Viking, the samurai warrior, and then we come to the American, who is a fighter pilot. But the thing that kind of like worked least about that was that there was a warrior ethos about the other two characters, the samurai and the Viking, that didn't quite apply in this case. And I think actually that in itself is interesting. However, what it sort of compensated for that warrior ethos to sort of pit the Predator against it was that this character was just very plucky and very lucky, right? It would just like that character could jump into a plane, outmaneuver a ship, and they were a new fighter, and it wasn't as disciplined as the other stories had.
Sure.
And it was. Hear me out. I liked how that was different from the other ones, but it was like my least favorite, I think the least successful of that story. in Badlands, that idea of the plucky luckiness kind of pops up again with the Elle Fanning character and the android character that she has. She is kind of she's great. She's wonderful in the role. So don't get me wrong about the performance or anything like that. But I found that her Thea is her name. Her character's ability to basically maneuver any, she is there as a plot mechanic for the Predator. Like, she offers him exactly what he needs in order to survive. And later on in the film, when she can kind of like infiltrate an entire sort of facility using just your legs alone, it kind of played in a slightly different territory to what I thought was interesting about Prey, about Killer of Killers, and about the first Predator movie. Now, again, I don't mind that it's there, and I don't mind that it's like a different approach. I found it to be sort of the least compelling thing about this movie.
This is the first, I think. Thea's interesting. Now we'll get into sort of deeper spoilers now that we've been chatting for a little bit. Elle Fanning plays two characters in this movie.
Yeah.
Thea, and I'm trying to remember the sister, two synths from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation.
Tessa.
Tessa.
Yeah.
And they have come also to this planet to hunt the Kalisk. Yeah, I got it. They've set up a whole like synth, honestly, army, which it's funny. I've always sort of wondered in alien movies why Weyland-Yutani doesn't use synths more as like soldiers. Of course they do. You just don't see it.
And well, this is the first instance of that. Because
yes, but like I was always Weyland-Yutani always feels shadowy. I'm like, yes, here's something that's been going on. Also, them all being synths makes it fine to make it PG-13, but also
that was a
But here's I think it actually works from not a plot perspective, but from a film structure perspective about trying to maintain Dec as the main character. Because the second that there's no human in this movie.
Yeah.
The second you add a human character to this movie, the focus of the audience will instantly go to that.
Yeah.
And I think it was very smart. Like, I know people have sort of maligned this movie for being PG-13 because all the things that die are either CGI monsters or synths. But also, some of the kills, even of the synths, are brutal. It's just they're filled with milk and not blood.
Yeah.
Regardless, I think it was a very smart move if you want a Predator to be the main character of your film, to be the protagonist, to set it up this way. I love that. I loved the dynamic between Thea and Dec, as well as obviously her legs are busted for the beginning and they have to carry her. They actually did that. They marched through the New Zealand jungle with Elle Fanning on his back.
Yeah. Because Demetrius can carry this entire movie.
Yeah. And I really liked Thea as a character. Yes. Is she an exposition dump thing? You betcha.
And she is there to like support the plot in whichever direction it's going to go.
Her structure, but what her character is would also do that. This is not a character. This is not a character that is being put. It's doing a job, but they wrote the character so that job makes sense both in world and out. And that is something that I really appreciate. Oftentimes, I'm trying to think of like when you have a character that's just spouting exposition, they're written in to just spout that exposition.
This character kind of does what the Tron Ares character does as well, right? Like, this character is basically saying we can be more than what our programming suggests we are.
No. Actually, this is the interesting thing. I think the hollow performance in Tron Ares of
Not the
Ares,
performance, just the android who wants to be more than their program.
Performance of that character, or how that character is written, both in as we see it on the screen, also I imagine on the page. I don't think anything was lost. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
That's that whole character's arc. I don't even see Thea in this movie. Like, she's not trying to be human. She's not trying to like ascend to another level of consciousness. She all of a sudden just realized, oh, well, maybe we can do something different. Like, if you're just talking about, a character realizes something can be done different, that's literally every change of every character in every movie.
But like Tron Ares, this is a character that is an android. This is a character that is a pre-programmed artificial intelligence that decides that it can do something other than its programming. Right.
Human beings in movies are characters that think one way and then think another way.
Understand, but artificial intelligence in both these movies do the same thing.
One is trying to be human or evolve into something else. The other is just changing their mind. Like there is an intrinsic difference in these two characters and their goals.
I found that part of the story was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, well, she's doing the thing, and it's interesting because the Weyland-Yutani androids, as they've been depicted throughout all of these movies, starting with Ian Holm, Lance Hendrickson, and eventually I'm forgetting Professor Magneto's name at the top of my hat right now.
Professor Magneto.
Yeah, the actor.
Oh, David.
Yeah, David. Has always been played as someone who both is interested in their programming, as we saw in Alien Covenant, but one that understands like the ability to kind of like discard those around it. And it was sort of interesting that this was the character that kind of essentially says, no, we're going to like form a family. And my point is this.
And also, this isn't the only one to buck the programming. If you look at Alien Romulus, there's Andy, and it does a very similar thing with them. So in the modern era of telling stories about these synths, it has moved into that direction.
And I'm not suggesting that it like doesn't work in the movie. Like the movie works. I just found that was like the part where I was like, yeah, okay, cool. I was just sort of like least engaged by this character and what they were doing.
I thought Elle Fanning actually did a lot of heavy lifting to make this character enjoyable to experience doing the job that I do think it was both written in script to do and successfully dialogue-wise written to perform and not seem like a huge pain in the ass or annoying.
It's very plucky.
I just saw, when I saw this film, it was the second in my Elle Fanning double feature because I saw Sentimental Value and then this, which was a very fun Elle Fanning day.
Yeah.
I think that, so sort of on the note of her character, I'll swing back and say the things that sort of annoyed me about the beginning of this movie, pretty much until I want to say after maybe the razor grass section. So like the first battle when they see the rock monkey.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, is the Predator like literally a Disney princess?
He kind of is at this point.
And it's like the trope of the Disney princess is sort of, it's evolved to sort of fit these things where like everything revolves around them in the story. And then things just work out and it moves forward in that direction.
Also, the animals love him.
The animals love him.
He gets his own like little bird on his shoulder.
He gets spat on and then they're bonded for life. Yeah. And
no, but he also gets like his own like little shoulder cannon. That's his buddy.
Oh yeah, we're getting to that. The snakes. Well, this is
a very Disney princess.
This is my point where it went from I'm not liking really this, and I'm rolling my eyes to this is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Throughout this movie, throughout the first third and even into the first half, it's just them trudging through the woods, getting into situations, running, killing a thing, running, killing a thing. Finally, they reach the big monster and they kind of sort of kill it. Not really, because it can't die. That's its whole thing. Weyland-Yutani wants it for its regenerative properties. But they capture it. And then there's sort of the discussion of like why Thea was going with Deck. She wasn't lying per se, but she just wanted to get her legs back and didn't really care until she started to care. And
she thought Tessa was going to be on board with this.
Yes, because they thought it would be so interesting that this Yautja would be here and doing this thing. But then what I loved is when the Predator was down and out. When the Predator got knocked away and got escaped.
He was just an angry little guy, wasn't he?
But I loved that essentially what he did was take all of the annoying things I rolled my eyes at and went full Arnold Schwarzenegger in the first movie, went back to every tiny single MacGuffin that we saw. Oh, the razor grass. Oh, the snakes that spit it wherever the berries go. Oh, like every fucking thing where I was like, that's stupid. Mm-hmm. And then when they make it like his actual like found weaponry, I was like, okay, movie, you can do literally fucking anything. Like it was such a joyous, like, and again, is that a level of convenience or not being bothered? I keep forgetting the phrase you use for his directing style. Unfussy. Is that an unfussy way to tell this story? You bet your sweet ass it is. I was enamored with how on board I was when the movie rewound. He went back, he hunted and gathered, and then the last fourth is just him fucking up a synth camp.
Yeah, with extraordinary legs.
Yeah,
and an extraordinary stone monkey.
the son of the Callus.
Yeah, because that it needs a mother,
Yeah.
and so will Dick as we progress through this film. Look, my point here is not that it doesn't work. It all actually really works. I guess maybe my thing is that kind of alluding to that point I said about the more we delve into the mythology of the character and reveal like its origins and how it operates and that sort of thing, the less interesting the character becomes.
But I don't think we do that a ton.
We don't. What we do is we kind of build like this new mythology, and the character becomes kind of like the hero, and that's okay. Like, the Predator as the hero is kind of, it's like the Terminator becoming the hero. It works. I'm just somewhat less interested in it. But my only other point to this is, I think I could show this movie to my son.
Sure.
And it would be like the kid. It's the PG-13, the kid version of the Predator.
Sure. And I think,
and that's not a bad thing.
No, something that we've seen, as much as I'd like to admit that it's not, there's really only one Terminator movie post 2 that really does anything for me, and that's Dark Fate. Dark Fate is pretty good. But
no,
it's
not.
Dark Fate is pretty good.
Dark Fate is
not Genesis.
Is the time travel one, right?
Oh, try that
Genesis
again.
Is the time. Genesis is the time travel.
Genesis is the time travel. When Dark Fate is when Linda Hamilton comes back.
No, it's not good.
It is.
It's not good.
But regardless, my point is when you turn the monster into the hero.
Yeah.
I think I can safely say, after all of the Terminator movies, I don't want the monster to keep being the hero. I just want this aberration of a story. I want Predator Badlands to do its thing. I don't want to see the fucking cliffhanger or whatever the thing they say, like when they finally land on the thing and the mothership comes up and like, I don't give a fuck.
And that is just so we're clear as well, that is the ship from Killer of Killers that they escape on.
Yes.
So it's probably not Mother. It's
probably the humans.
It's probably the humans. Yeah.
Which cool, but like, and look, maybe I'll watch that movie when it comes out in 4 years and love it. But and if anyone can do it seems like Dan Trachtenberg can do it. If you ask me, am I interested? I am not.
Yeah.
I like this movie as a fucking like story.
Yeah.
I like that, and it works because we do know the Predator mythology. It's almost like a what if tale.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that. I don't want that to be. I don't want this movie to be the franchise. You know what I mean?
I guess my only other thing is I don't really even want the franchise. I like, but as it's turned out, because of Dan Trachtenberg's influence, up until Dan Trachtenberg got involved with this franchise, it was a flailing franchise, right? Like the Predator was as we described pretty bad, and Predators sounds like it was interesting but doesn't quite work. So it was 4 movies and 2 terrible Alien vs. Predator movies. So Trachtenberg has really actually made this really, really work. And I don't mind the direction of this. I think of his 3, it's very, it's also like, there's no outlier here. Like there's not one that's like bad or anything like that. It's like, they're actually pretty close. I just think that Prey to me is a little closer in spirit to what I am
to the original Predator,
or to what I'm interested in with this as a franchise. But that's not to say Badlands is not moving. The other thing is the task, the sort of Herculean task of trying to figure out what to do with this franchise is monumental. And like to take a stab like this is a difficult thing to do, and they do, and he pulls it off. So I'm just saying the one thing about Killers was the pluckiness and the kind of like sort of convenience fighting that goes on in the third battle of Killers kind of felt like it made its way into this movie. And I was like, that's cool. It's a thing. It's not my thing, but it's cool. You know what I mean? That's where I was at with it. I feel like that is a very nitpicky thing.
I'd have to rewatch it again. I didn't clock that from the combat perspective. Like I could see
Elle Fanning's character, Thea, being that kind of character.
No, I don't even think that's entirely true. Like if we're going deep into how it would make sense for a character, the character, the pilot in Killer of Killers, the only way he doesn't make sense in my eyes is because predators hunt great fighters, but they're not going after him at all. He just happens to be there.
It's not that, it's not, and again, I really want to make this clear. It's not that it doesn't work. It's like, it's just the least interesting, because the thing that has been interesting is that the predator always meets up with a foe that has trained and has a sort of philosophical idea about what it is to be in combat. And that character is not that, and kind of has this sort of like magical factor. Magical is the wrong word, but like convenience factor to them. That is less interesting to me.
I can't speak to what's interesting to you. I like when they take things that we're used to and throw it on its head.
Sure. For that reason, it could be good.
And I connected more with Thea than I did the pilot character, but they're both characters. They're Danny Glover. Danny Glover in Predator 2 is not the character that we traditionally would think a Predator would go against. And yet fate has thrown them together, and then that's sort of how it functions. And from a like convenience of Thea being able to fucking kick butt while she's in two pieces, fucking robot. Like, I don't know, like it's a Wayland Yutani cyborg.
It totally works. It's totally fine. I'm just sort of like pointing out the one thing about it that kind of like, I was just like, it's good. For me, I watched it and went, that was cool. Like I watched the whole thing start to finish and went, that was cool.
Yeah.
Whereas when I watched Prey, I was like, wow.
Yeah, Prey is a impressive feat of filmmaking and storytelling and adding the certain levels of culture to a Predator film that you very rarely get.
And you were sort of like, wow.
Yeah.
You could, this story has got so much opportunity within it.
But here's what I will say, even though there's a bit of Disney princessifying of the entire thing of the Predator,
yeah.
I actually did get a pang of emotion at the end when they're all family and they all go off and do space adventures together. I was like,
Dick gets to fight his father, kill his
dad.
Kill his dad. I mean, who doesn't want that?
Get his cloak,
and then have his own clan, which is made up of this like thing. It is a Disney princess moment. I'm
a sucker for the family is who you find, like as literally as
the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, like it's that is really something that I relate to a lot, and that'll give you a lot of points in my book.
And the thing that really makes it work is that it is not insincere. It is an arc that is like from the very beginning of the film. This is clearly the arc of the story that we are trying to work with, and it pays off.
Let's talk about Deck as a character.
Okay.
Because this is something I was
angry little dude.
Well, yeah, but I was worried about this.
Yeah.
Because while we're joking and like in the overall plot arc, we're saying the Disney princess of it all sort of like kind of comes into it. But I really do like that he doesn't actively change a ton. He just switches a little bit and still like there's two moments where he sort of switches. When he learns the only way he can recombobulate his brain is when Thea teaches him about the alpha in a wolf pack.
Yeah.
And I love that change could only happen in the Predator if talking about an apex predator and how they hunt their prey.
Yeah.
Like it's a small thing. But it wasn't like they had a conversation and the Predator was like, maybe life matters. No. He sees the importance of hunting in a pack now.
Yeah.
And so while we internalize as human beings, like, oh, he's changed. He cares a little bit. Like he does, but it never feels like they take him out of what the Yautja culture is. Dan Trachtenberg, the writer, did he write this movie too?
He did write it with somebody else. The story credit.
Patrick Asen, Dan Trachtenberg, and Jim Thomas.
Yeah.
How they're able to
Jim Thomas wrote the original story. Yeah. The original Predator.
Yeah. How they're able to thread that needle and make narrative sense and not make me be upset is really, really impressive. And I love that the rock, the Kalis little child that spits on him and like sort of like takes him as his own. When he's going and getting ready to like fight back, the Predator just spits on it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, now we're cool. Like it changes. The deck changes, but he does it in the confines of his own culture.
Yeah.
And I think that's fucking cool.
It would then be amazing then for him to take his new little family and go use it to murder human beings, like on a planet. He's
kind of.
And like Thea's like, no, this isn't what I meant by this. Like imagine if like the whole, like he's still a predator and he's like, now we're gonna go take on this little village.
What an interesting movie that would be.
Yeah, we're gonna murder.
He's got his cloak. He has a ship. He has a family he knows can kill very well.
Yeah, and he's like, now we're gonna go murder some shit.
Yeah. Show me that movie. Show me that complex moral quandary.
There is something I think a lot about in terms of Predator, but not just Predator, but coding in science fiction films that I was kind of like tinkering around with this week. I didn't like fully come to a sort of thesis idea about this. I think it's fairly easily identified and thought about, and I don't want to make the conversation we're about to have about this.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, I found the idea I was sort of toying around with was, does the Predator mythology code the Predator as black? Because of the Rasta, the sort of long dreadlocks, because of the actual coloring of the character, because of the otherness of the character. There's an interesting article I found by Lucas Minowski, who writes about pop culture, called Conflicting Blackness in Predator Part 2, which talks about the idea of like Predator being dropped into a sort of LA riots type scenario, and hunting amongst African-American communities. And again, this wasn't like an idea I was like really fully invested in. I was just sort of like curious about, because because the other thing we've been watching is Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And, for example, the way Lord of the Rings treats the orcs,
Yes.
There's a very definite coding of that between the orcs and the elves. And it's, again, I don't want to like turn this into like...
No, I think it's an interesting question.
Into like a conversation about like, is this the woke Predator that we've sort of seen right now?
Well, Go Woke didn't go broke. It made 90 million and it's on track. So there you go.
I think there's like, my point about this is that as I watch the Predator films, that question mark kind of lingers in my head.
Yeah. Also, there's definitely, there's no question that they're taking visual trappings, especially in the original and then everything since, from African-American cultures or African cultures with dreadlocks, etc.
Jamaicans. Yeah.
But the way that I think this is actually the weird side of it.
Mm-hmm.
As we have seen more of Yautja culture in these films, we are starting to see other pulls from. You can find different pulls from different human societies all over the place. There's a lot of Greco-Roman in the way that they are built. Their types of armor sort of mirrors a lot of that.
Yeah.
I imagine that all of this is. Well, I don't know how intentional or unintentional it is. I bet you 1,000% that dreadlocks were added or whatever those are on the actual Predator, because I don't think they're actually hair. I think it's something else I don't fully understand.
I believe Stan Winston did acknowledge that the Predator was they were using dreadlocks as a key idea for that Predator, and it kind of.
I think that what I'm saying is I think that original character design, there is definitely some othering going on based around that specific cultural affect or style. I think what I like is now it doesn't feel like it is just that. Like the latest Predator movies didn't feel that coded.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I was thinking about that. I guess more in relation to Predator 1 and Predator 2. Less in relation to these films. Because I think these films have kind of, in a weird way, because I think Prey itself does a lot to flip the binary so that it is not necessarily white versus black.
Yeah.
As, coded in these films. And I think, in an article I found earlier this week, they mentioned in the DVD features, Stan Winston comments that the Predator is conceived as a Rastafarian warrior. And another Rastafari, and I think that's fascinating. That's an artifact of like the 1980s, and particularly in the way that, action films tend to code good versus evil tends to be versus white versus black. Like we talked about.
You could even posit that one of the reasons why, and this isn't a white versus black thing. This is an other thing.
Yeah.
You could even posit that one of the reasons Arnold Schwarzenegger was cast, not only for his physique and for everything, was because of his affect and otherness around his accent. I'm not saying that's not to take away anything what we're saying here, but I think there is a real what can we peg on the monster that is other?
Yeah. And again, I think what's great about what Dan Trachtenberg has done is that the films his 3 films in particular don't reinforce that as a stereotype.
Yeah.
It doesn't continue on that tradition. Now we get to kind of enjoy the Predator for what it is, and in these cases, actually admire the Predator. I think these films have actually created a sort of sense of there is a great admiration for the Predator. It's not just this unflinching monster out to destroy our heroes.
Yeah, Predator is a slasher film. The first Predator is a straight up slasher film. There is a monster killing people.
And as we evolve and watch more of them, this story, we learn more about
it. Changes.
And in this particular film, it gets an arc.
Yeah.
It gets an actual arc that is based on its own psychosis, its own psychological makeup, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because as we noted in Killer of Killers, it's starting to get to a point where it's what is this dude? Why are you doing this? You could be doing so much other shit at this point.
Who says they're not everywhere, just killing everything?
I mean, they've got the cloaking device. And, I think as I fell down this rabbit hole, the thing that sort of came up in these conversations, it's sort of like the way in which The Wizard of Oz gets appropriated as a queer film, the way a Goofy film gets appropriated as a black film, as an African-American film.
Is appropriated the right term?
Because it's not intentionally created in that way, but eventually becomes part of that community.
But there also could be people who worked on it that did see it that way.
Sure. Yeah.
So I guess appropriated would assume that there is never any intent anywhere in it to be that. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with saying that. I'm just trying to think if there's a better word than appropriate.
I guess in the case of The Wizard of Oz, which I guess would have to, if you were to say that was intentionally made as a queer film, you would have to look past the Hays Code and everything that it was trying to operate on.
I don't mean intentionally There's this, we all know this. We listen to movie podcasts and things, the way that these films are made and these stories. There's so many people involved and so many tiny things that people want to put in for what they want to show or even hint at or whatever. It feels like any of these films that have been taken in by various communities probably have some people in those communities that also worked on them and kind of pushed little things. And not, again, the codes and things made it so you could not be overt. Yeah. I'm saying I think.
Well, it's not a pushback to what you're saying. I actually like that you're picking on that word appropriate. I think is to just flip the intentionality of how we're trying to discuss this, which is that we are not discussing this in the terms of how the film was made. We're discussing in terms of how it's received by its audience. And what I'm suggesting here is that we can acknowledge, for example, the Predator as a black character or coded in some way to represent, black, and that is not problematic now, or that is less problematic than it would have been had the trend continued.
The stories have leaned more into, even when the Predator is being a monster, or doing monstrous things, understanding where the Predator is coming from.
Yeah. And by the way, I really want to stress this as well, which is that this is a very unformed thesis at this point.
Totally.
An ill-formed thesis at this point. I brought it up because ostensibly, as I was thinking about this film, when I watched it, I was my sort of main gut reaction to it, and I said this to you before we started the podcast, was that was cool. I don't have too much to say about it other than I quite enjoyed it. And
I like the Predator films because I very rarely have a lot to say about the films themselves, but the conversations that the Predator films start are always really, really good.
Well, the thing that is consistent that you picked up on from this particular film is the idea of survival as not not necessarily a resource management task, but an intelligence task. So what makes Dutch in the first movie a better warrior than the Predator is his ability to use his environment
Yeah.
in order to his advantage. And the Predator in this film does
the same thing.
does exactly that. And the character in Prey, who's I forget the actress that play Amber Thur. I'm gonna go blank on it.
Yeah.
She does the same thing as well, like, and that is part of the narrative that has worked there. So it's the consistent factor here is that like there is a technological advantage that one character always has, but the intelligence advantage, the ability to kind of like turn your disadvantage into an advantage,
Work the problem
work the problem is actually what makes it work. And in this case, what's funny about it is it's the predator that has
the runt of the litter predator.
The runt of the little predator that has to actually do that. And, as you say, what makes the story work is that it's got a really clear arc about it. Every setup has a payoff. Every element becomes a thing. I found if I'm being perfectly honest about it, the final sort of attack on the facility where we see, the Tessa riding the get away from her, you bitch.
The super shredder of the cargo loader of aliens.
Yeah, exactly. When we're sort of seeing that sort of stuff, I was less enamored by this, and especially for me, the legs thing, like the legs.
I loved that.
I found
my entire theater clapped at that.
I found it cool, but in the way that I would find a video game cutscene cool. Like
I don't know. They're not different to me.
Right.
Sure, but it doesn't matter.
That's the way I watched it. I was like, oh yeah, that's
I loved it.
Because you know how like with video game cutscenes like that, you sort of like you watch it less from a storytelling point of view and more from like, oh, they're really clever with how they're making this mechanic work within the fight.
I would argue that a lot of cinema is that too, like for fight scenes for me. So like, again, I kind of clock them. I clock this kind of scene, whether it's in a game or a film, kind of the same. It is fun spectacle that makes you go, ha ha.
Yeah.
Like,
that's how I watch like a video game cutscene like that.
I think there's a lot of movies that I do that too as well. So right. I don't know. I just didn't clock a difference for me.
Yeah. Whereas the predator like feeding the little dude on his shoulder is more like, oh, I'm actually engaged on this on a story level, and I'm actually engaged. I think that's actually good character writing. So there's that. But again, 100% works. On board with the Dan Trachtenberg project at this point.
Keep it going.
Like, I think he's fantastic.
It's funny. I keep saying I don't want to see the next one, and I really, if I don't want to see another Dex story. Mm. If anyone can prove me wrong.
Yeah, it feels like this is working.
If anyone can prove me wrong, it is Dan Trachtenberg, and I'll be there to watch it. I'm just saying I would be so cool if like this was it.
And I know he's working on, is it a TV show of Waterworld at this point?
God.
Yeah, or is it a movie? It's
I don't know. I just bought Waterworld on 4K because I hadn't seen it in 20 years.
It's a TV show of Waterworld that they're working on in development right now. So, look, again, on board with it. And yeah, the unfussiness of it is what I really like about it. He's the cool guy that's not trying too hard to be cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what makes him cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, no, dig it.
Well, this has been the only podcast about the film Predator Badlands. Shahir, when you are not forgetting which river you accidentally floated down while on your own hunting adventure, where can folks find you?
You can find me still trying to dry my socks at my website, www.suvanova.com. Who says Suvanova? Not me. Matt, when you are trying to befriend every killer that's trying to kill you for your jujubes on whichever planet you're on, where can people find you?
You can find me bifurcating myself. What's it called when you get cut off at the waist? Bifurcating is when you're cut down the middle.
Divided by 2.
A 90-degree bifurcation over at my website, Kicking and Screaming, on extra history and extra credits over on the YouTube machines. Please go check out our Alexander the Great's Egypt series. The first episode is dropped on history. And we have a very on credits underperforming episode on the history of Dark Souls and how it led to Night Rain's multiplayer. It's one that I love. It's a topic I'm very passionate about. Shahir, I kid you not, it's the worst performing video I think in like 5 years.
Wow.
And
I have no idea what you're talking about.
It's okay. It makes me really sad. So even if you don't like it, go give it a like and a watch. You leave it on while you make some popcorn.
Give us a few of those.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. On the only podcast about movies. We've been slowly, and I mean slowly, gaining subscribers over there. If you've made it this far in this podcast, you're the exact kind of person we want in our YouTube community. Please go subscribe there. Give this episode, even if you listen to it on a podcast version, a like. Tiny little things like that do help move the needle forward and help us keep going in a way that does not cost you a dime. Next week, we will continue our Elle Fanning tradition and be talking about sentimental value.
I am so bad at pop culture. Elle Fanning is the sister of Dakota Johnson. Is that correct?
Dakota Fanning, but
also isn't Dakota Johnson within that family?
No.
Am I incorrect about that?
I think so.
Am I incorrect about that?
They just did a fun Vanity Fair thing where they were hooked up to a lie detector test.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because you can tell they really like each other.
Dakota Fanning, you're right.
Yeah.
I for some reason, I thought Dakota Johnson was part of it.
Nope.
No?
Nope. Also, both Dakota and Elle are their middle names. I learned a lot on that Variety article. Anyway, we're going to talk to you about getting all sorts of sentimental value next week.
Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.